In the past year alone, United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement has detained tens of thousands of people with internal enforcement goals, pushing for as many as 3,000 arrests every single day. For millions of immigrant families, this number is not a statistic. It is a source of fear, uncertainty, and disruption that now defines daily life in America. United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement, commonly known as ICE, is a federal agency responsible for enforcing immigration laws inside the United States. Created in the aftermath of the September 11th attacks, its mission was originally framed around national security, border protection, and public safety. But more than 2 decades later, ICE has become one of the most controversial institutions in the country. To some, it is a necessary law enforcement agency tasked with upholding the rule of law. To others, it represents a system that prioritizes deportation over due process, tearing families apart and destabilizing entire communities. Today, the debate surrounding ICE is no longer limited to immigration policy alone. It has grown into a broader conversation about justice, human rights, and what kind of nation America chooses to be. At the heart of the ICE crisis is enforcement. Officially, the agency claims its priority is removing individuals who pose serious threats to public safety or national security. However, recent enforcement practices tell a far more complicated story. Across the country, ICE operations have expanded dramatically. Arrests now regularly include people with no criminal records, long-term residents, parents of United States citizens, and individuals who have lived and worked in the country for decades. Detention centers have filled rapidly, pushing the system to its limits. New facilities have been opened, existing ones expanded, and thousands of people are held in custody while awaiting immigration proceedings, often far from their families and legal support. Communities describe the impact as immediate and chilling. Parents fear school drop-offs, workers fear job sites, entire neighborhoods report the presence of masked, heavily armed agents conducting arrests in public spaces. Critics argue these tactics undermine trust in law enforcement, discourage crime reporting, and destabilize local economies. Supporters counter that immigration laws must be enforced uniformly, regardless of emotional consequences. This tension sits at the center of the ICE crisis. To understand how the situation reached this point, it is essential to look at ICE's origins. The agency was established in the early 2000s as part of a sweeping reorganization of federal security following the September 11th attacks. The goal was to strengthen national defenses by combining immigration enforcement with criminal investigation authority. Over time, however, enforcement priorities shifted. Different presidential administrations expanded or narrowed ICE's scope, redefining who should be targeted and how aggressively laws should be enforced. What began as a security-focused agency gradually evolved into a powerful domestic enforcement force operating deep within American communities. In recent years, large-scale operations have intensified. Nationwide enforcement surges have targeted major metropolitan areas, leading to mass arrests and high-profile confrontations. For many families, these actions feel sudden and opaque. Individuals are detained with little warning, sometimes during routine check-ins or traffic stops. Legal proceedings can take months or years, leaving loved ones in limbo. Personal stories reveal the human side of the crisis: parents separated from children, workers removed from essential jobs, and communities struggling to cope with constant uncertainty. These stories have fueled protests, legal challenges, and renewed calls for reform. The debate over ICE reached a critical turning point following a series of incidents that brought national attention to enforcement practices and accountability. Public outrage surged after a tragic confrontation involving an ICE agent resulted in the death of a United States citizen. Protests erupted across multiple cities, reigniting calls not just for reform, but for the complete abolition of the agency. Lawmakers, activists, and civil rights groups began questioning whether ICE's structure and mandate were compatible with democratic values and constitutional protections. For the first time in years, the conversation shifted from how ICE should operate to whether it should exist at all. This moment marked a fundamental reckoning, forcing Americans to confront the balance between security, enforcement, and humanity. The ICE crisis is not a simple story of right and wrong. It is a complex intersection of law, policy, fear, and lived experience. It reflects decades of political decisions, shifting priorities, and unresolved questions about immigration in the United States. As enforcement expands, so do the consequences for families, communities, and the nation as a whole. Understanding this crisis requires more than slogans or sound bites. It demands honest dialogue, accurate information, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. This debate is far from over. What do you believe America's approach to immigration enforcement should be? Share your thoughts, join the conversation, and subscribe for more in-depth explorations of the issues shaping our world today.